Mark Milikowski with Dead On, and we are lucky to have our guest, attorney Rodney Meyer, with us today. And this is an attorney advertisement, and nothing said here should be taken as legal advice. Um, okay, so first we're going to talk about Lulu the lucky dog just inherited $5 million. So, Rodney, what do you think about Lulu inheriting $5 million as a dog?
Well, it's an interesting case. I know that my mother wants to leave some money to the dog. I don't know about $5 million though, worth, but I know that she would leave some money to the dog, or at least attempt
Well, it's
to.
fairly common. I have people all the time who, they're mad at their siblings or they're mad at their in-laws, and they want to leave money to the dog because the dog has, been their companion. Legally you can't do that. So you have to set up a trust, and that's what this fellow, the Tennessee businessman, Bill Doris, passed away at 84, and so he set up a trust for Lulu the dog, and he's got a friend of his, Martha Burton, who's taking care of the dog. And then they're going to have a conservator to check on Martha's spending to see that she doesn't blow through the 9 million right away. But this is not uncommon. People do want sometimes to leave things to their dogs or even their horses. But another thing people can do if they're mad at their children, which happens often, and their brothers and sisters, is that they can do a generation skipping. They could give things to their grandchildren. So I always kind of advise people that that's something they may want to do, that their grandchildren might turn out just fine. So you can always
Or
roll the dice.
not.
Yeah, but I mean, just saying, they know they don't want to give anything to their kids and or their brothers and sisters. So that's actually pretty common, and I think that a lot of children and a lot of even brothers and sisters or nieces or nephews think that, okay, my uncle's rich, or my dad's rich and I'm going to come into money when he dies. Well, that's not necessarily the case, because a will is confidential and the lawyer's not going to tell the kids or anybody else what's in the will till after the client dies, right? And a lot
Right.
of people assume they're going to inherit, and that's not necessarily the case.
So has this been litigated, this
Well,
case?
I think that there's been fights over other situations where the dog took the fortune and the kids litigated. This one, I don't know if there's anyone starting to fight it, so I don't know if he had any children that want to fight it. But there was some big case. I think the Helmsley case. There was a fight over the dog, got quite a bit, and then there was, you know, uh, distant heirs claim that they won it, and I think they got some. But generally, if you set up the trust right, it should be pretty bulletproof, you know. But I think this is more of a lesson to people who have the potential of inheriting something, to be kind of nice to their mom and dad, or nice to their uncle or aunt, so that when they're deciding what they're going to do with their legacy, they get left something. Because I experienced this quite a bit, where people assume they're going to inherit, and it turns out, I'm asking them, they said, well, I should inherit, I want to sue. And I'm like, okay, I'm typing up their declarations. When's the last time you sent your dad a Christmas card? Well, never have. Well, when's the last time you sent him a birthday card? Well, never had. When's the last time you took out the garbage? Never did. Your whole life, you never took out the garbage, right? And so, you start typing this up, and then, like, loving son, Mrs. Dad, the end, so, like, there's not much to say. So I'm just saying that people should keep this in mind, because you could end up losing the fortune to the dog. Or now, what a lot of people do is they want to give money to charity.
Right.
I'm not that interested in giving money to charity, because charities tend to have a large convenience fee, I guess you'd call it, right?
Right.
Like, you give money to the Red Cross, 95 cents goes to the Red Cross operating expenses for whatever is advertising and,
Right.
trying to collect more money, and maybe 3 or 4 or 5% makes it to the disaster victim, right? And that's not uncommon to most charities, right? There's a high maintenance fee for running a charity, right? I think, and then a lot of times people say, well, my kids are too irresponsible, right? I don't want to give them money because they'll go to Vegas and blow it, and and waste it. And you can say, well, you can set up a special needs trust in that case, right? Put restrictions
Right.
on it. Or you could always, buy them things that are relatively bulletproof. I mean, hard to wreck, like a laundromat's hard to wreck, a parking lot's hard to wreck. There's certain things. I mean, you give a kid who's irresponsible a motel, that can burn down. There's lots of, a restaurant. There's a lot of businesses that are hard to run.
Sure.
Something like a parking lot, not so hard. Something like a laundromat, not so hard. So there's investments you can set up to run the trust that don't take a lot of expertise to run, right? Or you can always have a trustee kind of run those things, or a business manager and that kind of thing. But often you find heirs sometimes can mess stuff up, even if there's a business manager, because they'll disagree and they'll want to borrow money and they'll want to sell stuff and get cash generally. And or they'll take out kind of loan shark loans against the corpus of the trust. So there's a lot of problems there. So that's kind of what we come into here. And so while a lot of people doing their legacy, I'm just going to give it to my dog. A lot of people want to give it to like art institutes and kind of things like that. And sometimes I think that's maybe a better thing if you know about art, right? Because those
Right.
are actually pretty good investments. And so a lot of people with a lot of money, say, oh, I've got my Monet collection, I'm going to give that to the Museum of Modern Art. And I think that's actually a pretty good deal for everybody, right? I think that the museums don't have that much of a carrying fee, right? A convenience fee to run things.
Right.
So that's the way I see it. So,
And in most of those cases, it would be something like a tangible asset, not necessarily cash, but whether it's a sculpture, a painting, or something like that, that would be normally bequeathed to the museum, right?
Right, that'd be a collection. Like I've got 15 Monets and a couple of Renoirs, and I'm going to donate them to the New York Museum of Modern Art or something like that. So, among the wealthy, that's a pretty typical thing. And of course, the grandkids and the kids are like, what about me? Come on, I didn't get how I wanted was one little Monet, like $7 million or something. But the parents know that they gave the kid the Monet, the guy would sell it, next week and
In a
go to
heartbeat.
Vegas, and it'd be gone, So, and it's a lot like that with legacies, because as you see that some families have land in the family for generations. They run farms and ranches. But if the kids want to go to college and they want to go to New York and they want to go to the big city, they don't want to run a farm or a ranch, right? So
Right.
they sell the land, right? And so then you have a lot of people putting together legacies. How do we keep the land intact, right? So it doesn't get all sold off by the heirs, because it's tough to run land. And I mean, you run agriculture, you have one good year for every 6 years, and it's you have a lot of employees and stuff like that. But once you start selling the pieces of the land, the legacy kind of has a tendency to fall apart. That money gets spent pretty quickly, right? It's cash.
Yeah, I did see a place in back east. They're putting them in land trusts and with the state,
Right.
where these large farms are actually just being, in essence, they do in essence a reverse mortgage, where they're giving it to the company, or to the state, actually, not the company, and then they're able to run it. And when they pass on, then the state will keep it as free land, or land for public use.
And there's also tax benefits too. Like if you give a bunch of money to the opera, or you give a bunch of money to the museum, or you bequeath the land to the state, you can, I don't know about the state on that, but to other charities, you can get a huge tax write-off on that. So that's useful if you have income coming in to the estate. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. And this has been episode 13 of Dead On with Rodney Meyer and myself, Mark Malakowski, both attorneys, talking a little bit about Lulu the lucky dog inherited $5 million, and how you may want to be nice to your parents and your relatives. And so some days you might be able to inherit something as well, and don't take it for granted. So we're signing off, and good night.